Reading update time. This is what I've been reading recently, what I'm currently reading, and what I plan to read next. I finished Watermoon by Samantha Sotto Yambao. This was whimsical and dreamy, but also, I think, too ominous and dark to be considered cozy, given my personal definition of cozy. The stakes were a little too high for it to be actually cozy, I think. I feel like this book would work so well as a film, especially if it were animated, because the visual imagery in Watermoon, it's like nothing I've read before. It was so creative, and the transitions from one setting or visual scene to the next were just so quick and seamless. I feel like it would be really cool to see it. This is Japanese-inspired fantasy that some people call cozy fantasy, about a father and daughter who own a pawn shop, and the way that people access the pawn shop is coming into a ramen shop. And if it is the right time in their life, they're transported to this pawn shop instead, where they have the option to get rid of a past regret, and it gets more complicated from there. One of the themes of Watermoon is that the worst thing about having choices is having to live with the consequences. But even though making choices comes with risks that's just inherent in choice making, it's important not to gamble away our free will. There's also the idea that forgetting our mistakes takes away our ability to make our peace with them and atone for them if needed. This is a book about searching for answers, but there is a romance subplot as well. I've heard a lot of people saying that Watermoon gives them Studio Ghibli vibes, which I totally understand, and that would be the perfect visual representation of this book. But also, it reminded me of a grown-up version of The Phantom Tollbooth or A Wrinkle in Time. I also just finished the Lost Queen series by Signe Pike, although I hear there may be more books added to that series, but right now it's a trilogy. So I read the 3 that are currently out. My enjoyment of that series, the reading experience of that series is so high, even though the second 2 books are not as good as the first book. This is historical fiction that takes place in the 500s and is Arthurian. It's about King Arthur as well as Merlin, or the historical figure who inspired Merlin, and Merlin's twin sister. The first book, The Lost Queen, is about the twin sister Langorith and her story. It's so interesting when an author can pluck a woman from history and give her a voice when that voice has been forgotten. Langorith is a Briton in a world where people are trying to introduce Christianity throughout Europe, and she encounters fighting and violence among the Britons, the Picts. She manages to be soft and strong at the same time while being really clever and using the tools at her disposal to try to make things happen in the way that she wants. There's family drama, there's some delectable romance, there's kind of a love triangle, there's some elements of magic. I was thinking that this was historical fantasy, but the author herself in the afterword, or the author's note, talks about how it wouldn't be perceived that way if the fantastical elements that were described were attributed to Christianity rather than the old way. The first book is this really deep character dive. It's delectable. You get to know her. The scenery and the setting is gorgeous and so interesting. There are historical elements that are well researched thrown into the book. And then I feel like the last 2 books were a little bit more rushed. More POVs were introduced, and not that the story was rushed. It was kind of rushed. I don't know. I would have liked to sit in some of the moments a little bit longer and flesh things out a little bit more with the different characters, or just not introduce their POVs at all and focus on the couple of other characters, like maybe Langorith, maybe her brother Lilacan, who is the figure who inspired Merlin, and really just kind of delve into them rather than even expanding much beyond that. This book looks at love and the responsibility to others that comes with love when we let it into our lives, and how love changes when that responsibility starts to grow heavy. There are such brave women and girls in this series. There's bravery to take risks in order to honor family members. There's bravery to let people go, and bravery to fight for worthy causes even when the odds seem impossible. It's about women taking their power where they can and being really clever and mighty. So that's what I've been reading recently, and I am currently reading Blood of Dragons, which is the last book in the Rain Wild Chronicles, which is one of the series within the realm of the Elderlings by Robin Hobb. I waited a full month to get to this book because I just don't want the series to be done. This is the best series that I've read in my life. This is an incredible reading experience. I don't even know what to compare it to, but once I finish this book, there are only 3 books left in the 16-book series. I'm torn because it's all I want to read. I love the writing. I love Robin Hobb's writing, and when I read other things, sometimes I just feel like I want to get back to her work, but then it's going to be done. So I really just don't know what to do. I need to have a plan in place for when I finish the series, but I've been trying to intersperse other books so that I can drag it out and stay in this world a little bit longer, but a month was all I could really do to stretch this out. So next I think I'm going to read The Bone Doll's Twin. It's a book that comes highly recommended by Margaret, which is honestly always a good sign. So I'm thinking that that might be a good thing to do before I finish The Realm of the Elderlings. So that's my plan. What have you been reading recently? Let me know, 1 or 2 books. Let me know in the comments.